Hi, it's Kevin Coyne. Welcome back again to one more VO Weekly. We're getting towards the end of the year, and we're here to talk about Christmas is a refugee story and what startups and entrepreneurs and technology around the world can do to support the some of the most vulnerable. Kind of extending the some of the concepts that we've been talking about over the last few weeks. Definitely want to keep on going on that. But first off, welcome to the Venture Outfitter. The whole problem, what we're here to do is how is it we can help entrepreneurs that are taking on some of the biggest challenges in the world. Entrepreneurs that are driven by vision and values a lot of times need special support for what they're up to. And so that's what, TechRanch started an organization called the Venture Outfitter to specifically do that. Welcome. First off, I'll start with our sponsor. I'm actually sitting here at DualWorks. DualWorks is one of the co-working locations in Austin. It happens to be, if you look at a really big map of Austin or the Austin area, we're right at the intersection of 183 and Mopac, and they have been a continuing sponsor. Linda Blackman, who went through Venture 417, who definitely has scar tissue to donate to you as well as an entrepreneur, started this place, or she runs this place. And make a long story short, really happy to be here at DualWorks. We work with a number of different co-working places in town, but DualWorks has made it really easy for entrepreneurs both locally and around the world to land here into a closed-door office, or if you need just a mailbox for an international point of presence into Austin. Great place to be. Venture Outfitter, we have the community. We're going to be doing some changes on how we're managing community just because we continue to learn about how to do that. If you're not already for free on the VO community site, and both everyone that's here as well as everyone that's listening on one of the other channels, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn, take advantage of joining us in the community. And then the VO network, it's the next level up. The VO network, part of what that is about is we have access to a number of different opportunities, features, like special programs that we have to have like some structure around. That's what that's for. We'll tell you more about it. We're going to start in the new year with more of a true active marketing campaign around that, but more about that coming soon. But it's a great way of getting involved in and taking your startup to the next level. So I want to start doing more of the coming soon type of programming for for the next VO Weekly program, which is next week. To close out the year, we're going to have a program called People Should Eat. What is that referring to? Since you know that a lot of times I really personally like supporting the entrepreneurs that are driving the cutting edge of shared prosperity. Both today's program and next week's program is going to be about this. And the main thing about it is this whole idea: people should eat. Food security is a fundamental, I think, human right. And we have a couple of entrepreneurs that are going to be talking about that. Jody Lane of the Food Forest, or in the Fruitful Commons here in Austin, will be speaking. She has a network of 80 local or Austin-based or Central Texas-based community gardens, as well as she runs a what's called the Fruitful Commons. I'm on her board of advisors. What's real exciting about what's happening with that is they were just running a contest of 52 different programs across the United States, and they won. And then the purse that was won is around $100,000. So pretty exciting about what she's doing. Very cutting edge type of work about creating food forest and community garden network. And then Joy Chevalier has started a group called the Cook's Nook. It's a culinary incubator that was started in the middle of a food desert here in Austin. And she'll be talking about how her team is now serving 3,000 meals per day across Central Texas. Pretty exciting stuff. She stood up that operation in the middle of the pandemic when a lot of people couldn't get food and ran out of money and things like that. Pretty interesting stuff. We'll hear about that all next week. So please join us. And yeah, I know it's like, aren't we supposed to take the vacation and all that sort of stuff? Yes, I'm working on that myself. Um, Part of what we'll do though is I think this is really critical type of work about what's happening. So excited to hear from both of them. So it's almost Christmas, and one of the things that this is a picture that I took in Budapest. Absolutely stunning, stunning architecture. Really enjoyed my time there and all that sort of stuff. And I just was reflecting on what's happening, with Christmas. Christmas always has a certain special meaning, I think, to a lot of us. Even if you're not Christian, a lot of times, Christian is when I'm Christian, but the truth is that I think that the Christmas spirit extends beyond just to Christians. And when I talk about what I want to talk in this next couple of pieces, the thing that I want to make sure that I mention is I'm going to introduce a kind of a Christian view about things, but I don't mean to preclude anyone from the message that we're actually talking about. And in fact, we're going to hear from a diversity of different people about this very thing. And that's what I'm kind of excited about this. And so, as part of the celebration, even though normally, historically, in my career, this week and next week, I would totally have taken off, I thought it would be important to share some different ideas. So, one of the things about it is Christmas being a refugee story. I got on the post where we posted about this onto LinkedIn, I got different questions about Christmas, a refugee story. Are you kidding? And, if you look up the definition of refugee, what does refugee mean? It means someone had to move because of, some type of war or other type of persecution or perhaps some kind of natural disaster. And we've been talking about this. We've over this year we've had individuals talk about what's happening in different countries around the world. We've had, what just happened in Haiti, both with the earthquake as well as some of the political unrest about what's happened there. And I really want to dig into this because one of the things that I like about our network of entrepreneurs that we're collecting is this idea that we have this diversity of backgrounds. The diversity of backgrounds, but all of them being entrepreneurs that are actually looking at, they're driven by vision and values, meaning they're actually doing something with what they're up to. More than just, hey, let's build a startup and make $1 billion. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. The main thing is I'd actually like to see us drive more activity where we're actually saying, okay, let's make $1 billion, but let's make sure that we support, billions of people with that concept. And there's some interesting examples about what's happening. And so that's what today's program is all about. And when we talk about Christmas as a refugee story, one of the things that Jello was doing some research as he and I were talking about this program, and he found a really cool article that I think frames things in. And so I had been trying to write something, and he said, hey, Kevin, look at this. So I'm going to read it to you just because I think it's that powerful to talk about what the framing in of how Christmas is a refugee story. I'll share it with you right here. Let me just read to you, especially for the people that are only going to hear this on audio. The Christmas story is not about a refugee family, but is about a family seeking refuge. Ordered by an occupying government to travel afoot for days on end so that Caesar Augustus could count the number of people under his order, an expectant mother at the peak of her pregnancy is forced to undergo the single most dangerous experience of a first-century woman's life, not at home, but away in a manger. I believe that the Christmas story should open our eyes and our hearts to those that are most vulnerable in our midst, to those that are whose only hope is to travel by foot and inflatable raft for days in search of a livable life, many of whom look very much like the Middle Eastern Mary, Jesus' mother. Jesus tells us to welcome the stranger, to feed the hungry, to go and sell all your possessions and give the money to the poor. Jesus asks that we treat all of humanity with the same love, kindness, and generosity that he modeled throughout his life. The Christmas story reminds us of a family struggling under the yoke of an oppressive regime, of a God who became human to take on our struggles and strive to embody divine love, whose light shines on all. As he tells us, whatever we have done for the least among us, we have done for him. As followers of Jesus, we are called to welcome the stranger of our time, to return the care shown by the Good Samaritan to today's marginalized communities, and to open our hearts and our doors to those seeking refuge this Christmas season, whatever their religion. This is an article that Jello found by Reverend Dr. Serene Jones, president of the Union Theological Seminary in New York City. And the article's URL can be found right there that we'll put into the show notes. But the most important thing about this is to say, to really frame in what Christmas is about. What was the gift giving supposed to be all about? And the main thing I want to say about it as a network of entrepreneurs entrepreneurs that give a care is to actually start figuring out how we can continue to work with each other to support each other as we're supporting different opportunities in the world to actually take care of people. One of the things that we would have happen around the Tech Ranch is a lot of times I'd have, the entrepreneur walk in the door who would say, "Hey, I've got an application that helps you find your friends at a bar here in Austin, Texas." And thankfully, well, in the early stages when I was really grappling with this mission that I feel like I was given to be an entrepreneur that's supporting other entrepreneurs, part of the thing that happened is to actually work with even that type of individual and then say, oh, okay, why don't we repurpose this in a way? So it's not about you finding your friends in a bar together, but let's that same application can help someone who's vulnerable find resources that they might need to find for their sustenance. One of my favorite companies is an example about that, and they just changed the name, and I actually am going to forget the new name, but is AuntBertha.com, which is all about someone walks in, like the mother of two who doesn't know about all the different government programs that might take care of her, can actually say, hey, this is me, this is what I need on AuntBertha.com, and then go find the resources of programs that already exist. So, and that's one of our entrepreneurs from way back when. He now has more than 80 employees. I lost count after 80. Pretty exciting stuff. If someone actually gets the if someone else gets the URL and post it into the chat, that'd be great, because I'd like to give Aaron a shout out. Although I would be willing to bet that AuntBertha.com still works. So with that as the context, I was at one of my friends' houses recently, and there's this woman named Shailee Juneja that said, who was telling me about how she had just gone to the UN and just shared some insight about what she was doing in a project. And it was like at such a scale that I was like, okay, we've got to get her to come speak with us today. And there's been some interesting things that have happened. This morning, I got a call from her from the doctor's office saying, hey, there's a good chance that because of what's happened, I'm not going to be able to make it. So she might be able to join us live in just a little bit, but this just happened just not too long ago this morning. I mean, it's all happened since around 9:30, 10 o'clock this morning, and here it is 11:19. But I want to share, I said, hey, Shailee, I know you're there at the doctor's office. If you could, why don't you share some of your thoughts about the project you're in? So I actually have a little bit of an intro that I'm going to introduce, and I'm hoping that she's able to join us live in a little bit. It really depends on what's going on there and stuff like that. And she was like really apologetic, and I'm like, hey, Shailee, I totally get it. I totally understand. And so I want to share a little bit about this project that she's talking about. We're also going to hear from another gentleman named Arda that actually will be telling us about some of the complementary things to the same idea. But with no more ado, let me introduce Shailee, and this is her voice. Hopefully, someone give me a thumbs up to let me know that y'all can hear this okay. We'll go right straight into it.
Hello, friends. This is Shailee Juneja. I was very much looking forward to joining you all today, but just some pre-holiday health fun, maybe changing of weather, maybe just everything that's coming down the holidays. So I'm a little under the weather and will not be able to join. I very much appreciate the opportunity Kevin has given me to come share with you guys my experience in leveraging technology to reach out and create access to mental health services for underserved communities across the globe. So I want to share with you just a couple of examples of how working with technology leaders across the globe, we've been able to create pathways to access to mental health services, especially where physical access is very, very restricted. Before I get into examples, I guess I should take just a minute to introduce my background. I'm a healthcare technology strategist based out of Austin, Texas. About 25 plus years of living and breathing healthcare technology operations nationally and globally. In particular, the last 7-8 years has been focused on digital innovation, on technology innovation, particularly creating access in underserved communities. A couple of years ago, I had an opportunity to work with UN and UNESCO sites based in Syria. The war was pretty active. The conditions were pretty dire at that time, and most of folks and international aid was very minimal. I spoke with one of the mental health leads that were still deployed in Syria, and I'm not able to share their contact details just for security. But the reality of the situation was there were only 325 mental health care professionals left in the country with varying degree of certifications. And total number of people who needed mental health services, particularly with depression, anxiety, and suicide ideation, was over millions. The war-torn area created difficulty in physical access and travel within the country. So at the refugee camps, at best, they were able to provide services to just about 300 people every week, which was really like drop in the ocean. The processes to get full-blown program approved is very bureaucratic, as you can imagine, and can take months. So I worked with several healthcare, mental health firms and technology strategists in Silicon Valley and Austin. And we came up with a cloud-based platform that particularly works with 2G and 3G network, because the network access in Syria was also very spotty. That could be accessed via cloud. The companies agreed to offer it at no cost. And we worked on training the healthcare professionals to use the cloud-based software, and it could be accessed over phone to connect with people in physical locations where Al-Qaeda was there and the physical access was not possible, to give them counseling, to give them access to suicide prevention services, which was really a huge pandemic there. Our connection with the leads was spotty because of security reasons, but I would often get updates from the lead that based with the software, they were able to increase counseling services and access to people to over 3,000 per week. And they were working on deploying phones and iPads, which we also provided as donation from the companies to all 300 healthcare providers that were left in the country, so they could, use this software to connect it. We simplified it. We did not go into the full-blown clinical notes-taking, clinical triaging, which is often part of the online softwares. We really simplified it for a audio or visual chat, whichever the network would allow, some basic notes taking so the teams can access it, cross each other, and be able to fill in for each other. But this is just one example of leveraging technology. And the key lesson learned here is simplify, take off all the bells and whistles, and really get down to identifying not only what the need is, but truly what the need behind the need is. And in this case, behind the pandemic, behind the social, cultural barriers, the political barriers, was simple access to, I just need to be able to talk to somebody when I'm at the edge. And that is what we did using WhatsApp notifications to the group. We created a simple group where people could text into, I need help. And then through secure mechanisms, they would reach out and connect with them. Another example of using similar technology proposal, though it was never really deployed, was when I had an opportunity to work with the government of Saudi Arabia about 5 years ago, when they were doing their healthcare strategic planning for 2020 to 2025. I had an opportunity to go visit Saudi Arabia, work with the royal cabinet in helping define the healthcare strategy. And, the cultural nuances in the place, access to women's health is limited. We were planning on standing up quite a bit of top of the line facilities. And just what stuck out to me was in room of about 55 leaders from across the nation, there were only 3 of us women in the building. And, it just stood out to me, people deciding the fate and the details of access to healthcare for women. There's really no women representation. Cultural nuances in the company, a woman cannot drive, women cannot go to a healthcare provider without the permission of a male relative and being accompanied with the male relative. It made me wonder how many women really did have free access or unhinged access to healthcare, regardless of if there was $1 billion facility there or not. I think, again, the need behind the need, the barrier was unrestricted and private access, on-demand access, not necessarily putting up of the facilities. So I ventured out on my own, donned the burqa and the hijab and, hired a security guard and a driver and visited some of the rural clinics and ended up, I do speak the language, speaking with a couple of folks, and it really was true. Even if there was a clinic or a facility, the true barrier is women does not have access without permission of a male relative and being accompanied. So when you think about something so personal and, something that still has a lot of stigma like mental health care, the biggest barrier is actually presenting it, getting the permission, and getting somebody to accompany you to do that. So 2 days later, I came back to the committee, to the council, and sort of shared my observations and presented a plan that instead of focusing on a physical network of facilities, maybe we need to create a virtual health network for women's health services, mental health, OBGYN councils, all of that could be used, to the point in virtual health. And, I was able to back up with a couple of companies who would be interested in doing a pilot. So again, just sharing a couple of examples of specifically in the area of mental health, how we can use innovative ideas of placement of technologies at the point of need, intersecting that there to really help with the access. I wish I could join in person, and I wish I could do a live Q&A dialogue with you guys to share more of my perspective, but more importantly, to learn from you. What are you guys observing in the areas in the world where you are? And maybe brainstorm on how we can continue to push the envelope in using technology to create access to healthcare. So my apologies once again, I'm not able to be on the call today, but Kevin has my email and my cell phone / WhatsApp information. I would love to hear from you, maybe even have a follow-up conversation where we can continue the dialogue and learn from each other. Um, that's it from me, I guess, just for now. Have a blessed day, and I hope I get to talk to you guys again and continue, maybe find ways to collaborate in future. Have a blessed one.
Thank you, Shailee. So, yeah, I was at this dinner at this friend's house, and I was hearing some of the stories that she was talking about like truly being, in security situations at the edge. She had many other stories as well. It wasn't unique to this one or two stories that she just shared, and quite powerful about what she was saying. We're definitely pulling her into the network, and she is here in Austin. We have some follow-on type of projects that are going to be happening. As a side note, to expand on what Shailee is talking about, I don't know that we've publicly mentioned this here, and I'm going to ask that Jello for next week we go ahead and put together a specific slide that actually talks about this. But one of the things that is happening is, as on March 15th, as part of South by Southwest, we're going to be having the Global Health Security Innovation Conference, or it's actually Global Health Security Innovation Week, which is part of South by Southwest. Specifically on March 15th is going to be about mental health. Now that whole week, actually there's 4 days of programming for the Global Health Security Innovation Week, and we're involved, our Tech Ranch is involved in that whole thing. University of Texas at Austin, Texas State University, Texas A&M University, and a bunch of different universities as well as other organizations across Texas started Global Health Security Initiative. Tech Ranch is one of the companies as well, because we've been working with the Pandemic Tech Accelerator all the way back to 2017. But make a long story short, I stood up at one of the meetings and said, hey, or one of the steering committee meetings and said, hey, we need to go ahead and drive even more activity on the mental health space. And so we do have what's called the Mental Health SIG, Special Interest Group. I will share in the chat right now, and Jello will put it into the show notes, about we're taking on other startups that can pitch at the event. We'll also have other speakers. I've asked Shailee to actually make sure that she, is one of our speakers as well, because she's at the cutting edge of what's happening. And so, in a second, I will get the actual URL of the actual event. But March 15th is going to be specifically around mental health, and we have some speakers that you'll recognize on the international scale. And then on top of that, I'm asking Shailee to be a part of that as well. And I really wish she was here. It's funny, right now in that window right over here on my computer, her and I are interacting. And she said, capture any questions if any of the folks have any. Jello did share in the chat her email address. I'm going to ask that part of what we want to do, though, is just not overwhelm her with lots of questions. I want to make sure that, like with any one of our entrepreneurs, that what we do is we support each other by helping build this communication up and build it in the community. That way, a lot of us can actually plug into what's happening. The visualization that we talked about many times is, if you want to take on the whales and the sharks of the world, you have to have a school of piranhas. And one of the most important things is not to try to take out some issue as big as this as just one piranha, right? You have to have a way of coordinating, being loosely coupled across those. And so I'm going to ask that a lot of what happens is, let's have it happen on the community site versus just individual emails, because then we can mass behaviors on this together. The March 15th event that I'm referring to is part of that. So let's switch gears. And like I mentioned, Shailee might come out of that doctor's appointment and hop in at any point. And if she does, and I don't immediately see her, just because there's a lot of different, people on the screen here and all that sort of stuff, Jello or Melvin or Omar, one of y'all just kick me real quick and say, dude, she's here, because I really was hoping to interact. But if you have questions for her as well, post them into the chat, and I'm going to actually have a follow-up conversation with her about that as well. So switching gears, I was at another event the other night, and actually through one of our members, Janet Brooks, who's present in the audience today, she said, "Hey, there's this Turkish guy. You need to meet him. His name is Arda, and Arda is a successful entrepreneur from Turkey. He lives here in Austin. He's got a media business, or he'll tell us the details of his background really quick. But part of what he's got a media business, but part of it is he heard me and all my hand waving about some stuff that had happened in Turkey, with the same set of refugees that are coming out of Syria. And he said, "Hey, Kevin, you probably don't know the full extent of what Turkey is doing." And so, without stealing any of his thunder, I'm going to stop share. I don't know if Arda, if you're going to be sharing screens or anything like that. But Arda, welcome and glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us, and excited to hear what you have to share as well.
Thanks, Kevin, and thanks again to Janet, who introduced us, and thanks for TechRanch for giving me this chance. Well, again, as you rightly said, this was not a planned thing, and I'm really definitely not as much in this sort of industry or as Shailee is. I'm a tech entrepreneur. I'm a tech/marketing entrepreneur. I myself, I'm not a refugee or asylum seeker, but I myself am an immigrant. So I moved to US 4 years ago, first Santa Monica, then luckily and happily Austin, past 3 years. So I think the world, especially people who are not as deep in these issues as Shailee, may not know, but Turkey has a really special place, which should be recognized and should be known. And I'm not here to brag about Turkey, apparently, but I did my a little research, and you're going to find out why it requires this recognition, and also, of course, to also see and witness what's being done, what could be good benchmarks, or unfortunately, I don't have any contacts, let alone I think they're also keeping it a bit sort of private, these sensitive issues. So I don't have a detailed, let's say, examples of what's being done in terms of technology and so on. But I myself have a fair share in social good or technology for social good. As in 2001, I innovated a charitable, let's say, product or charity product where you can basically text and donate to people in need, to apparently NGOs and other charities. So this was the first in the world. I didn't know it. I just solved a problem like an entrepreneur would solve, right? So I took this to an educational foundation for little kids, for little girls in Turkey, called Turkish Education Foundation, something like that. I'm not sure about the perfect translation of it. And then UNICEF and all others came in, and I think this was remarkable because they were having troubles collecting people's credit card numbers and getting mail order forms, etc., etc. And they could only reach to a certain number of people. Whereas my company back then, Mobilera, we were mobile experts, and we believed this era will be the mobile one, right? So that's why we put that name in 2001. So we basically solved this problem as easy as talking to mobile carriers and convincing them to allow a messaging service. Very simple. It's not huge super tech at all. I never brag about it, but I think I have quite a safe place up there. That's what I can immediately tell, because we helped dozens of charities collect millions and millions of liras or dollars whatsoever, and I think this became a benchmark in the rest of the world. I think they started with Katrina storm here in States 5 years later, or 4, I'm not sure. So just imagine just a little sort of problem with some technology and entrepreneurial, creativity can, have a ripple effect, I think. At least that's what I believe so. And so this is my sort of, I'm not even gonna go into the community building projects and the value that we create, but I think I know how to touch the lives of masses by using technology, and that's why I don't want to highlight that more here, but more go into our example by sharing the screen. And by the way, do we have time? Like, how long do I have?
Usually we tend to go to the end of the hour. Sometimes we
Okay.
go over. It really depends on. I mean, since it's Christmas, I got nothing else till my meeting at 3 today. So, but we probably won't go that long. But yeah, typically we have till the end of the hour, and mainly the main thing we want to do is just make sure we have some interaction and open up for questions. So,
Yes, for sure.
Arda,
Okay.
feel free.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna make it quick. So as you said, maybe it would be a good chance to discuss with the rest of the folks. So I think I can share my screen with you. Wait a second. There you go. Can you please tell me when you see it?
We see your screen.
Okay, awesome. Probably better like this. Okay, so to look at what's happening, there are 82 million people that were forcibly displaced worldwide. And in the past 5 years, the conflicts are causing, mainly 15 conflicts. And this data is coming from Internal Displacement Monitoring Center, which are partners with UN. And it's not stopping. So this accelerated to a new level, which I've never seen before. By the end of 2020, there were 26 million refugees, 48 million people that were internally displaced, so in their countries, but without a home, and 4.1 million asylum seekers. And even worse, 42% of these people are children, and it is really disappointing. And usually the developing countries and neighboring countries to these conflict zone areas are helping their neighbors or their fellow countries. And this is also a bit contrast with what's with world dynamics. But anyhow, I'm going to come to that later. There are actually 5 of the top 5 countries are 68% of the overall refugees. And In terms of asylum seekers, the most applications were submitted towards US, followed by Germany, Spain, France, and Peru. I think Peru is a special case because of Venezuela, probably, but the rest of it, apparently, people want to move to West and to, let's say, advanced and rich, to be honest, more prosperous countries for their family, for their kids' education, and apparently to find a job and to make a living. And Syrians, as you can see, are by far largest in terms of refugee people. And coming to the hosting countries, and as I said in the beginning, currently Turkey is hosting, and I think this is only the documented one, and I believe it is at least 50% more than this, if not double. So Turkey alone is hosting almost 15% of worldwide refugees. And Colombia, which probably is a recent thing because of Venezuelan crisis, and the others are Pakistan, Uganda, and Germany. In terms of populations, by country of asylum and population type, Turkey leads in the refugees under UN mandate, and US leads in the asylum seekers, to give credit. But again, like, why would a country with 21st ranking in the top GDPs in the world should host 1 out of 6 refugees? This is kind of annoying to me, to be honest. I mean, I'm proud and happy that my country is helping people in need, but this is just unfair because Turkey's economy is not really doing too good as well. We used to be the 16th largest economy like a few years ago, and today we're 21st. I'm not blaming it on refugees, but I bet there's also a reason. One of the reasons could be that. So over here, Turkey is, if this is the word, US, China, roughly 50% of the world GDP, and this is Turkey. So I tried to put a magnifier, but I couldn't. So I put an image over there to show you the contrast. And what is really interesting about the Syrians, especially these days, and to talk about that, nearly 3.7 million Syrian refugees are in Turkey, and 90% of them live outside of refugee camps. So they're integrated in the country, 81 cities, all of them. So I'm going to show you a few slides just because you see the. But before that, can I play a video? Actually, two, like really short ones.
That sounds great. I'm not sure if you shared audio when you shared a while ago.
I can try.
Yeah, go ahead. Try it.
Oops, it's not working. Wait a second. So it should be. Sorry. I think I have. Oh, this is an image, that's why it's not. Yeah, there you go.
يعني الواحد بيرجع على وطنه وآخرته مرجوع على وطنه والحمد لله تحصل.
Yes.
Actually, yeah, but there's also voiceover, so it's important that you hear it. Also dubbing and subtitles.
يعني الواحد بيرجع على وطنه وآخرته مرجوع على وطنه والحمد لله تحصل الوضع هناك يعني.
لأنه اشتقت أنا سوريا، اشتقت يعني لناسي، اشتقت لرفقاتي، Over 162,000 Syrian refugees have returned to their home country after Turkey's military operation in western Syria cleared many towns and the war winds down all over the country.
سترتوا على اولادنا واطفالنا ومكتورين الخير. هلا انا رايح وزوجتي بعد كم يوم لاحقني واطفالي ان شاء الله.
No country has taken in more Syrian refugees than Turkey, nearly 3.5 million since 2011. Of those, only 227,000 live in refugee camps like this one in Şanlıurfa. Istanbul has the most, with almost 554,000 people. The city has become a second home for many Syrians, who have opened restaurants, stores and barbershops. 42-year-old Samir al-Qadri is one of those who decided to settle in the city. He opened a bookstore filled with Arabic books.
وقررنا نعمله لأنه مجتمعنا السوري هون الكبير صار كتير بتركيا هو بحاجة لهذا الموضوع وبنفس الوقت ليكون جسر بيننا وبين أتراك.
But there are problems. Unemployment is high and sometimes there are tensions between refugees and Istanbul residents.
كلاجئين وضعنا في تركيا لا بأس فيه ولكن يحتاج المساعدة أكثر. يحتاج توفير فرص عمل أكثر.
What about children? There are more than 1.6 million Syrian children in Turkey, and so far more than 600,000 of them are being provided with an education. Economic difficulties among the refugee families and the language barrier prevent more children from going to school. But those who do go to public schools or schools run by charities or in camps are doing well.
Çok mutlu olduk. Burada hiç savaş yok. Resimleri çizdiğimde çok mutlu oldum. Bu boyaları çok seviyorum. Resmini de çok seviyorum.
These children will always be Syrian, but many of them will soon be Istanbullu, or residents of Istanbul.
So,
it's a really compelling video for sure. If you don't mind, afterwards, please do share that URL, and what we'll do is we'll make sure that's in the show notes as well.
Yeah, definitely. I can share it through the notes, and actually, there's another one. Again, this short, but this is not only about Syrians, but there are also Afghans and other people. Do you want me to show that too?
If you'd like.
I think it's not a repeating thing, but I don't want to take too much time of people, and yeah.
Well, what we might do too is I'm having some difficulty on seeing the back channel on Facebook for questions from Facebook. So Jello, let me signal to you that I'm if you could, if there's questions there that are coming in, please let us know, since for whatever reason my iPad's not allowing me to see the back channel on other stuff that are happening. Definitely. But if you'd like to, go ahead and share that. That'd be great. And I know that we have a few people that are going to, like right when we hit 12 o'clock, they're able to need to step out. If you do have questions, we'll keep on going, because I'd like to keep on going on such an important set of issues. But I totally understand if some of our studio audience is needing to step away just because of the constraints of the day. And yeah, Kim Johnson says, have another meeting. Thank you for the presentations and have a good holiday. You too, Kim. While you're bringing it up, I'll go ahead and mention another question or another statement that happened in the chat. And Arda, tell me as soon as you're ready to click on the next video. Bill says, another need for expected. Oh, there we are. Go ahead.
No, don't. Okay, please. Sorry.
Bill says, another need for expected refugees who stay as residents in the country of residence could include occupational education. The bots, Automa, and digital twins are replacing the laborers in the destination countries plus the language difference have to be addressed. A good example about that, when he says digital twins, there's a project that one of the consultants around Tech Ranch did around digital twins. You can have like a piece of equipment in the oil field that then you have all these sensors on, and instead of having to drive around in a truck like you did in olden times in West Texas to go see maybe at most 20 drilling sites per week or so, you could actually see 500 during that same time with a digital twin that is like an overlay that actually goes into that. And that, I think what Bill is suggesting is that you could actually have a way of doing that with people from one part of the world looking at another part of the world. And because even though there's a language issue, like maybe the person doesn't speak English, the great thing about that is you can have a different interface on top of it, and the language issue just sort of drops away. Go right ahead, Arda.
Sure.
This playground is an unexpected delight for many of these children. They're a long way from home, waiting with their families outside this asylum processing center in the Turkish capital, Ankara. Like every other day, hundreds of people will be processed today, including Gulam Sarwar, a tailor from Ghazni in Afghanistan, one of the many front lines in the fight against the Taliban. He made the decision to flee just a week ago.
When I came home from work, fighting had broken out in my village. I found my wife and children hiding in the house terrified. Then a rocket hit a house nearby, and it affected my house too. It was very difficult, but I had to flee.
Most people here say they love their country. They'd like to return, but it's not safe for them there. Whether they're from besieged Palestine or parts of Iraq and Afghanistan now overrun by hostile armed groups and militia, or from Iran, which is handicapped by growing economic sanctions. Turkey has been a central stop on one of the most important refugee routes to Europe. And it's on their quest to find safer lives that their lives converge.
The war in Syria ignited the worst refugee crisis since the Second World War. These people queuing up here are fleeing persecution and conflicts in their countries. And now it's here in Turkey where they're hoping to find an understanding and hopefully a safe haven.
Faced by the overwhelming numbers and a lack of funds, organizations looking after their cases are being stretched thin, but still try to do everything they can.
There's a pressure on the Turkish government to register a lot of people because United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and many other organizations just try to provide and help Turkish government, but generally from all over the world, the services, the funds are not enough for all these people.
There are a lot of complications with the asylum process on all sides. But as the plight of refugees worsens, many who are still waiting in these lines ask what they need to do to be granted access to a better life. Rahul Radhakrishnan, TRT World, Ankara.
Cool. Well, Arda, let's see if there's other questions that anyone wants to actually interact. Since we're right at an hour of talking, I'm just wondering, any comments that anyone would like to make, or questions they'd like to ask back and forth about what we're talking about? Up. It looks like that was from Arda. Yeah, keep on going, Arda.
Sure. As you see, numbers are really amazing. I mean, it's really like, can you imagine in one city, Istanbul alone, there are 500,000 Syrians only, and I bet it's more than that. You can see it on the streets or elsewhere. But the good news is that it is somehow spread all over the country. So that means not only they're going to the big cities, but also, moving to other cities and probably integrating, having jobs, having relations, making marriages, etc. So this is all good. honestly, to handle this many people in a already economically troubled, country is not easy. So one of the things that caught my eye, which makes perfect sense, is this UN refugee agency's partnership with Google, apparently in Turkey, to basically teach digital marketing skills to refugees, to young people, students, graduates, or entrepreneurs even. So it's not only teaching them some techniques, but teaching these to basically make them, have their own, initiatives, ventures, or even or find a job apparently, which is really. I mean, it's not a rocket science thing, but this is basically what one of the notes you just mentioned. It's so easy to have some virtual trainings and even virtual jobs for these people. Another good example I found was this gentleman, this actually student in Istanbul that shot a movie and which became an Emmy, which was rewarded with Emmy Award for outstanding cinematography about its about the conflict in Syria. Apparently, it's. I don't want to show you the trailer, but it's currently Nat Geo is showing it, and there's the link of it. It's kind of graphic. Let me put it this way, and touching. But anyhow, so this gentleman who already was into photography and videography, after being displaced, came to Istanbul and found the rights, freedom first, and then met with right people who helped him shoot this movie, got some producers from North Europe, and got some support from Turkish television, etc., which became a success. So if you can give this chance to these guys, they're gonna, they will return the favor for sure and gonna succeed, achieve things that they. I'm not sure if I should go there. I mean, when I did my research, I came to, U.S. Refugee, status or what's happened in years. So there's a decline apparently in U.S. refugee admissions when the world is facing the, this crisis in the highest level since World War II. And actually, U.S. was leader until 2017 and 18, but not anymore. So apparently there are many reasons for this, and but it can be political, it can be some because of September 11, and very recently COVID, of course, is a major issue. But it is imperative that U.S. has admitted 76,000 refugees between 2017 to 19 under Trump administration, and in the last full fiscal year of Obama administration, it was 85,000 refugees, which is kind of, I think, sad. I mean, imagine only Istanbul is hosting 500,000 of them. So this is also interesting. They checked the origins of these refugees, and Democratic Republic of Congo accounted for the highest number of refugees, and then comes Burma or Myanmar, and then Ukraine, and finally Afghanistan. They also looked at the religious affiliation of these refugees, and it is In 2019, at least, it's 79% of them are Christian, or they declare themselves as Christian. And so this pattern was not like this. So it was almost equal back in 2016. And somehow it's changed. And whoa, go Texas. Top state for US refugee settlement in 2019. Actually, the other day, I have a son and 7-year-old going to second grade. And there was this Afghan kid, in their class who recently came. And my son actually helped him to, somehow, well, again, they didn't have the language, same language, because we don't know. Turkish people do not read or speak Arabic as to common, misperception. We don't speak Arabic, and we don't even know how to read or write. But still, even my son have helped this little kiddo. I think there are a few hundred people already in Austin, if not more. I'm not sure about this, which is a great thing. Also, there are some other states in 2019. Hawaii and Wyoming took in no refugees, like zero. And District of Columbia, Delaware, and West Virginia had fewer than 10 refugees, like 10. If there is someone who's listening to this, probably they know all those 10 refugees. Anyhow, I think this is wrong, but we have to look at the reasons for it. And yeah. This is the changing, views about refugees. So by US, of course. So US residents, citizens. About half of Americans in May 2018, half of Americans said US has a responsibility to accept refugees into country. And this is, I think, a good sign, but I think maybe we should give them more chance. I think you worked with, maybe you personally worked with Steve Jobs. Is it true, Kevin?
That's true. Yeah, definitely.
So this is a good example. There are some rumors that this is not true, okay, whatsoever, but this is a fact that he's a son of a Syrian father and American mother, who later on was adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs. And this is a great example, I think, at least makes you think, what can happen. And this is a more recent one. They are indeed from Turkey. They're born Turkish. So born in Turkey and then migrated to Germany when they're 4. So this couple, these 2 doctors, have found the COVID vaccine. The first one, BioNTech, is their company, and currently they're now enjoying their billions, but let alone the money. I think this is an impressive, and to be honest, I'm not sure if they would be as successful if they would stay in Turkey, which is a really good, in terms of medicals and, in terms of medicines and pharmacy, Turkey is good. Turkish doctors are really good. But probably Germany have somehow, gave more, let's say, resources or chances for these people who were actually trying to cure cancer. They had to stop their, research and focus into COVID when COVID break out. And hopefully they recently, I think yesterday, FDA approved their pill that you can basically take home if you're having a milder, COVID symptoms, which is amazing. They're now partnering with Pfizer, and this is a great story. I love it, even though I'm not too happy that they left. But apparently they're proud Turks, and I'm proud of them. And these are all good cases where we should also look at, before making some, decisions or perceptions. I think that's it. Here's my contact information. Feel free to ask me any questions, or I'm happy to contribute to any sort of discussions here or later.
Well, thank you, Arda. What we'll need to do is have you come back and actually, I'd love to dig in more about some of the other examples you gave about the applications that you built out years ago and stuff like that as well, because
Sure.
the main thing that I hear in everything that you've said that I want to make sure I keep on presencing is all the different examples of how technology and entrepreneurship are solving some of the big challenges that are there, right? Whether it's the fundraising that you mentioned early on, or the individuals that, they landed in a new country and they used entrepreneurship and the tools of starting up companies to create jobs that are in those new locations and stuff like that. And then, back to the example that Shailee actually shared. In Shailee's example, about, how can we get services to the individuals like the Syrians, as an example, so they didn't have to move, so they didn't have to actually leave. Now, there's all sorts of other needs there, and I don't want to oversimplify any of that sort of stuff. One of the things, I could start asking 1,000 questions, and given that we're to try to be sensitive to the time of everyone's commitment and stuff like that, Arda, I'd like to make sure that you as well, hop onto the network if Jello hasn't already invited you to it, to hop in and to be a part of the conversation. If we could, Jello, get one thread started that Shailee and Arda are included into, so that we can actually have follow-on type of things like that as well. I'd like to do that. Any other closing comments, Arda, that you'd like to make really quick?
Yeah, to be honest, even while working or thinking about this presentation, I could come up with 10 ideas. Just throw 8 of them, but 2 are, like really life-changing thoughts, I think. And just imagine what would happen if, a bunch of other people from other disciplines come together and think about it. Because it's at the same time a bit depressive, but I tried not to, like watching all these and seeing all these videos and reading. It's kind of depressing, I must tell you. But you need to, stay, sober and right. I think it can even start. Because of the regulations or other, political and other dynamics, logistic issues, it may not, next day there won't be, millions of people in Europe or in US, it's not going to happen. So maybe you can, or we can, help them wherever they are, right? So it's really interesting, even for me, to find out that about 4 million refugees in Turkey, only 200,000 of them are in camps. So what are these people doing, right? And many of them, of course, you can have kids documented somehow, or put them in school system, which they are actually. They're getting school education in Turkey in the public school system. All of them, whoever wanted to, actually. Even in universities, they have some special, list, or they don't have to wait in the queue or whatsoever, or take an exam. But many of these people are working for some, corporates, either documented or undocumented, or they're doing their own job, whatever they were doing back home, or totally changed it. So especially in a time where we're discussing, Web 3.0 and, decentralized autonomous organizations and, metaverses and so on, many of these, even new tech jobs will require, human force. And from a developer to to a person who is, taking comments or whatever, doing some minor thing, some errands. I think we can create some bridges between some businesses as well as, entrepreneurs or even, donors, right? To help these people. And you don't necessarily have to, you can have remember when in my childhood we had pen pals. So we used to write to a kid which we never saw, but somehow an organization, God knows what, were matchmaking people, right? And then those pen pals started becoming your, guest at your home. I know because I hosted a pen pal. So this is happening like 40 years ago. Okay, I'm old, 49 years old, but but imagine in today's, landscape and today's possibilities. I mean, you can do so much more, right? And just by using even.
Well, yeah, it's amazing
internet.
because we can actually just a little bit of insight, a little bit of connection, and yeah, we can do all sorts of different things. Let's do this for today. Let's put a wrap on today's program. I've got a couple other questions I want to ask. I also mentioned really quick that that I was gonna. We have a high school student with us as well that I'm gonna put on the spot for just a second and let him have like a 30-second. Just tell us real quick. He's looking for an internship. Son of Oliver and Lacey Schmetzel, is named Ryder Schmetzel. Oliver and Lacey are both long-term friends of mine, and I want to make sure that we actually get a chance to put him on the spot really quick for entrepreneurs that might be looking in the space that he's looking for support. Ryder, really quick, this is your 20 to 30 seconds.
So I am a high school student and I'm a junior and I'm looking for a summer internship at a video game development company. I'm proficient in Unity, C# and Python, and I'm willing to take a job even if it has no pay, just for the summer.
That sounds great. When he's a brilliant kid, I can actually put 2 cents in for him from that standpoint. Ryder, what we'll do is I'll make sure that Jello invites you into the area. Make sure that he has your email address, and we'll invite you into one of the areas of the website so that you can expand that out even more. Thank you for being here today too, and you're always welcome to join. I love the fact that you joined today. Cool. Well, let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping things up. Just as a reminder for today, if you're not on the network and you heard about this just today for the first time, join our email list. You can join our mentor list if you're interested in being a mentor for the network. We also have, since we have so much international stuff happening, on this one web page, we have what I call the country manager list as well. So if you have insight about a specific country and you want to bring that to the fold, a lot of times I'll have people contact me personally and say, hey, Kevin, I want to make sure that you know about what's happening in this other country, or whether it's, like as an example, the country of Moldova just recently got a hold of me and said, hey, we'd like to make sure that you know about Moldovan software developers. Or it could be, there's an opportunity with another part of the world where it's like, hey, we need technology of the following things. Like Arda just shared with us some different ideas. Shailee did as well about different things. Get onto the list by showing up there. You can always send me an email directly too, but the simplest thing now that we're going to scale on this is to do this as well. The other thing that I'll just say that as we're wrapping up, I know there are a lot of different entrepreneurs that are wanting to hear about these type of stories that we just heard about, and there's this other need on the other side about just the tools and techniques to keep on pushing there. And so I've been talking with the team about separating out the two concepts where we have, just like the how do I actually get, like revenue minus cost equals profit? How do I tactically deal with that sort of stuff? And I think that part of what we're going to do is be separating out. I was just talking to Melvin over the weekend about separating out these stories that are just like amazing about what's happening from also the program where people can contact half of our meetings we're actually doing where it's like, hey, I've got the following problem, help me work on the following thing. We're at a point now that I think that we want to separate those two conversations so that there's a chance of getting even more activity back and forth. For other people to plug in and stuff like that. As an example, I noticed that we had some of our entrepreneurs from Hungary on today, and there's some active questions about what's happening there. And then on the other side as well, on the other side, we have individuals that are like leading the pack about, it's like they truly, moving about how they're leveraging technology and entrepreneurship to solve problems at a country scale, like what we heard from Shailee earlier today. If you have an opinion about that, I'd like to actually get your opinion. I'd like to actually see if there's a way that we can get, serve more entrepreneurs with this program and some of our online programs as well. And so please do let me know. All right, well, so we went over today, which I think was worthy of such an important subject, especially as we are in Christmas time and as we talked about earlier about Christmas as a refugee story. It's always an honor to work with entrepreneurs that are driven by vision and values. Let's make it a point to leverage our skills and our tools in our community to change the world for the better. So let's go change the world for the better together. Thank you all for today. And with that,